My name is Ethan. I work on Rendr at Trulia, and our focus with Rendr is really kind of giving us the ability to make a very mobile app and not try to make something that's responsive. So it suits our design, our needs very, very well. We've been using Rendr for just about a year. It was funny when you were like, Rendr open source on April 1st. We launched our Trulia website to 100% traffic April 1st this past year. So it was fun. So right around the time Rendr first came out, or was first kind of announced, I was really frustrated. There are a bunch of us at Trulia were really frustrated with our mobile website. We were trying to figure out what to do. There's a talk by Ilya Grigorek, who's a Google web speed guru, that's called 1,000 milliseconds to glass. And that is a 45 minutes, but it's worth it. It's an incredibly comprehensive coverage of the network topology of a mobile phone. You know, what's your phone doing? It's trying to save its battery. So it doesn't care that it has to reconnect to the cell tower. It's trying to save memory, so it's trashing your browser cache and doing a bunch of stuff. And so I was learning about that, and I was really excited, but it was going to be really hard to implement any of that using Trulia's kind of current mobile website, which was kind of like a weird one-off. At the same time, we found out about Rendr, and it was like these two things at the same time. It was like peanut butter cups. Like, this is awesome. So at Trulia, we do innovation weeks. So we took a week, and we like sat in a room, and like after a week, we had like just barely a working version of Rendr. Just kind of figuring it out. We were all new to Node. We were relatively new to Backbone. Our current stack is a LAMP stack, so we didn't really have an API for Backbone to talk to, let alone for the Node app to talk to. So we got it out, and it felt incredible. Like it was an amazing kind of like tech moment of like, this kind of could be the future. Like, this feels great. Like, I'm just writing a Backbone app, but it's super fast. It was really nice. So that kind of made us be able to sell it, to say like, hey, we want to rewrite the mobile website. It's okay if the three of us take 6 months to do it. It's going to be awesome. Airbnb is a great brand to be like, look, the Airbnb's website. They use it. It works great. And everyone's like, yeah, the Airbnb mobile website's really fast. And our website's really slow. And you're like, yes, I'm going to be allowed to do this. So in September in 2013, we started rewriting our site. We were learning everything from scratch: Rendr, Node, Express, Casper, handlebars, testing. How do we build an API on top of what we've got? What do mobile browsers do? You think they're modern, but they have their own set of problems. And then we managed to survive through. We started out with 10% of traffic. We went to 100% of traffic in April, and the results were just absolutely incredible. It was the first time we'd used Node at Trulia, so there was a lot of skepticism about, oh, we're using the cool kid thing. But it's fully matured. They bought extra servers just because they were worried, and we've never, like, our stuff runs ice cold. So it was like this just shining moment of success of very much thanks to Rendr and kind of its ability to just pump out web pages. Since then, we've been recovering from the shipping process and adding features. Just to kind of give you a little bit of this was our before and after on web page test. The old site beating that old site isn't impressive. But the ability to get, like, we're down to 2 seconds. We weren't there initially. We can really tune the server page because we can refactor a lot of the code at once. And this is a little bit of the side effect of Rendr coming into Trulia, was that it was a fresh start. So we got to throw out all the weird old templates. We didn't have to worry about any of those. We had a whole fresh server in terms of Express that had no legacy business logic or anything attached to it. And we were able to really write really nice, clean code. And that's something that has actually become a bigger part of this at Trulia, of like, Rendr has kind of become the stone in the stone soup of, let's turn the engineering culture to really focus on excellence and see the results of that. So we'll reword that just a little bit and to say, like, well-meaning but short-sighted code kind of gets you there after a couple of years. When you have clean modular code that you're like, yeah, let's try to do this inline CSS thing. Being able to do that and not be terrified that some weird thing is breaking somewhere is really exciting. So I'm going to just click around on the site in a little bit, but just kind of where we stand. We get about 6 million weekly visitors. I'm not exactly sure how we define what a visitor is, but that's a lot of them. And our minimal hardware is just a couple of Node servers. Each one's about 140 megabytes of RAM per instance. We have one node instance running on every core. They cook right along. We have a PHP API that Node then talks to get its data. That is about 6 kind of LAMP servers, and that's the code we dragged over from PHP from the desktop site. And those run pretty nice as well. Ops is really excited. It's a super fun thing. And I just want to show you the app just because if you're not looking to buy a home, you probably don't know much about Trulia. Maybe? This is small. But so the kind of the joy of Rendr is that we're here, we click this page, it slides right in. We were just on the home page, but because we have that property card, we've got enough of a property model that we can start to build what we call a property details page. We build if you refresh this page, this top part is all coming from HTML. All the rest of the giant things to get you to click on them and interact with our site are all loaded via Ajax, lazy loaded. And we do a batch request to get all of those at once. And it makes the browser much more responsive because it's just doing one big request. We were doing 7 small requests, and you could actually feel kind of, okay, there goes the school info. There goes the batch requests really helped us. So this is, it's a lot of fun. If you like schools, if you have kids. Sometimes Trulia is a great website to work for, and sometimes not. But so we have all this stuff. We're hijacking the back button. We're throwing our own views on top. It's a pretty nice Backbone app, and we're very much trying to look like our app, so that you're using the website. It feels the same. We can do all kinds of stuff. So that little loader that you saw was it actually going to the server to do a search. But now that we have the property will load this initial picture in its HTML view, and then we add on to that. So in this first view, you're going to get pictures, but then once the app actually initializes, you get pictures that you can slide through. We can come over here. We can do this trick. And then we go into the photo viewer, stuff like that. So we're very much like trying to be an app. Rendr lets us do this incredibly fast and not have to suffer that first page load. Huge amount of our traffic is from SEO. So people who see an address, they see something, they want to know something quick, otherwise they're going to bounce. And so the Rendr really gives us the ability to kind of do both things at once, which is fantastic. I'm going to try to get back into my presentation. Yes, excellent. So we just did that. So it's been 9 months, something like that. How'd it go? And of course, specifically with Rendr. At first blush, it was amazing. We got our prototype up. I screamed to the whole company, like, this is the future. Airbnb gave us a nice little bit of legitimacy. Rendr, Spike said it's big, but they couched it as more of a library, and while that library framework distinction kind of varies a little bit as you go through Rendr, I would much rather enhance a library than kind of fight a framework that's telling you, like, you have to do all these things this way. I'd rather say, like, okay, you're not going to tell me what to do. Let me add a little bit of code here. And Rendr kind of hits that sweet spot. It was definitely enough for us to get started without knowing anything about isomorphic JavaScript other than reading some stuff on Hacker News. But then we've been able to customize it. Our API is much more hypermedia than REST. And so we've been able to kind of work around, Backbone likes REST, not really hypermedia. So we've been able to work around that because Rendr isn't telling us exactly what to do at every step of the way. Which was a little frustrating when we were getting started because you're like, tell me what to do every step of the way. But now it's better. We saw the next slide. The Rendr is easy to override when you need to override it. Again, everything is good. There was a little bit of suffering. Documentation is hard. But kind of once you pay that, once you pay the price to learn Rendr, it's not so bad, and it's young, so it's to expect it to be perfect in every way. I think is that's a big leap. But again, I've been flattering it like crazy. Like it does really good stuff. So the question that kind of comes up, especially among us, is we're like, okay, that we're kind of hitting a little bit of maturity with our site, and we're looking back a little bit. Would we use Rendr again? There's Spike went through this, and I have a couple more of more of the same of like, there's other isomorphic libraries available now. Should we use React and should we do this other stuff? And the answer is yes, but we've paid that price. So the answer for us is yes. We have a bunch of Backbone knowledge in house. It's something that we're very comfortable with. If we started with Flux, it would be like, okay, well, let's scrap all these views that we've just written. And Rendr ends up being a very view-heavy app in terms of interactions. So that's the question for you guys. Should you use it? It depends. There are a lot of other options that you should certainly evaluate. But to kind of jump to the crux of it is, should you go isomorphic? If you have a single-page app experience, absolutely. I've been a web developer for a long time, 15 some years, and it's really nice to say, oh, I know how to tune a server response. I can really play with kind of like, okay, what are we returning to the client, and not have to throw all that kind of knowledge and skill that makes a website experience great out the window, because it's like, well, we're just going to serve a shell of HTML and then hope they get the JavaScript really fast. So it's nice to have that full control. Spike touched on this as well. It's like, oh, it's really nice to have your formatters available in the browser and on the server. It's something that when you get it going, it just feels great. And I highly recommend, if not Rendr, evaluating isomorphic for your next single-page application. There's like a whole world of why this is really good for mobile websites. Mobile phones are better at HTML than parsing JavaScript. They can do a whole bunch of optimizations, and so you don't throw that away either. You're kind of playing to the best of both worlds, because then all you have to do is get some JSON, and you get to do nice WYSI interfaces and stuff like that. So, otherwise, if you want to do server pages, there's some hoops to jump through.